Now then, welcome back to my VW Crafter Mega Van build, and I have been busy. As you can see, we have got some colour on this wall here, and also on this one, and that is the first step towards bringing the outside in. So what I'm trying to do is pretty much bring all that lovely luscious greenery into this van to transform it into my own little luxurious, luscious woodland nest. That is what we're going to call it. So let's have a quick look what I've been on with, and then we can crack on for the day. Starting with the bulkhead, which is complete and it is in permanent place now. I have fully fitted the shelf that's inside, and that is carpeted, and I've held that up on this side by this little rail here, which I've also carpeted, just so that it's pinned through this side rather than the face side, which obviously potentially isn't going to look too good. I've also put this trim around the reveals, and that just allows to finish that off, so that now I can actually put an oak trim all the way around the outside of that, just to make that look like a picture frame. And then we have this, which is this beautiful light that I've found, and it took me absolutely forever to find this because I had it in my mind what I wanted and I just couldn't find it anywhere. And this is an old industrial light which I am going to paint, but I wanted it because it has got full adjustment. It just moves out into any position I want. So as you can see there, it's just absolutely awesome because I've got full maneuverability with it in one direction of, or one plane of movement, so I can shine the light pretty much anywhere. But I actually adapted this by making this bracket, and this bracket's just out of some old bits of metal, and I've used a quick release, it's a Campagnolo one, we've gone posh, off a bike wheel. So if I unlock that, it just allows this now to swivel either way like that, so I can just put it in its smallest position like that, shove it to the side, lock it up, and it's out of the way. But when I want it, I can just bring it out and it can come down for me romantic meals. It also works well because I can use it to actually shine light into the cupboard just in case I need to find something in the depths of it. So I am well happy with that. As I say, it just needs a little bit of paint to make it blend into what I have I've got going on with the green. The walls are fully first fixed and insulated, and that means now I can actually board them out. So looking at my wires, as you can see, they are all neatly put away and tied securely, and because they're going to be pressed up against this sort of soft insulation, there's not going to be any vibrations with that at all. I have completed all the insulation everywhere, so there's literally no air gaps in any of these walls. And on this side, I've actually got my final layers of insulation, and this is using some super quilt. This stuff is just awesome because obviously it'll wrap and shape to the body of the van, which is curved, and it is just the best insulation, I would say, for using in a van. You just will not get a better R value, insulative value in the depth that it sort of sits, because this will sort of sit between 20 and sort of 50 millimeters, and there's about 20 layers of foil and foam insulation in this, which obviously is just awesome. Oh, feels like I'm getting into a tent. Under here we have got the boards on the wall, and behind the boards obviously is this insulation which has wrapped right from the floor, and it's going to go right the way over to meet the other floor. So this van is going to be as toasty warm as you're going to get. In the board itself, I've got a few cutouts like this, which is a wall mounted tap outlet. And the tap I've got for that is absolutely awesome. I'm looking forward to showing you guys that because it is clever and just a perfect thing for in a van in a small space. I've also got some mains voltage double socket there, and this one next to it is a 12 volt USB charging station. But as you can see, the board is fully fit absolutely perfectly. We've got this nice straight line all the way up there. The cables are pouring out of the wall there, and I've also got this absolutely crazy nestle of cables there, which to be fair are a bit like a Rubik's Cube. I do not currently know how to solve it, but I'm going to work it out. And look at this, a wall-to-wall vinyl floor. And the vinyl I've used is the sort of stuff that gets used in hospitals and schools, so it's super hard wearing and fully waterproof. And that now just gives me a base. It's almost like the soil of the van to allow all my furniture to grow out of. So I am well excited about getting to that stage, because that's when it starts getting interesting. The floor itself I've actually sealed all the way around, so it's fully sealed, so any moisture that potentially gets spilt onto here, or if I have a leak, it's not going to fall down the edges and get stuck under the floor and cause rust. Anyway, let's crack on with this wall, and I'll show you how I actually fit the boards to the wall and the insulation. Let's go. Just a bit of protection down. And here is one of the boards that I prepared earlier. It is just raw on the back, which is untreated, and on this face it has got 3 coats of paint, one being an acrylic primer in white, and then 2 coats of the green, just to bring it up to something like. And then when I finalise everything in the van, because I'm sure I'll knock and scrape a few of these boards, I'll give it one proper decent coat of paint to finish it all off. This panel was actually fairly straightforward to cut. I just had to make a template to scribe around the wheel arch, which I made out of cardboard and then transferred onto the board. I also had this little cutout to do for that bit of metal work, and we have got one hole there for a wire. So I need to remember to bring that wire through, because I've seen many a plasterer just bored over wires, and then the electrician comes and starts crying because he can't find the wires. So that is definitely an important one to do. I also chose this height because we've got this full beam all the way down the van there, and that just allows me to then attach the board at that point, and then the board that sits on top will then get pulled in to the same point like I have done over here. So it just means that these can then be adjusted to make sure that those sit absolutely flat and flush together. So first job, we need to get a pencil, some sort of rulery thing, and a tape measure, and we're going to mark out where I'm going to drill my holes for my attachment points. This is going to be easy because I am just copying exactly what I've done on the other side. So the measurements are already done for me. I just need to transfer them onto this board. And what I've done is set this at 15mm, which means that is going to be my mark of where I'm going to drill, because then they all look in line. It's a bit more purposefully done, and when they're in line it just looks a hell of a lot neater. I've marked up everywhere with my pencil with a tiny little cross, and now let's drill some holes. I've just got a small drill bit in here just so it marks the metal where I need my fixing to go. And all I'm going to do, make sure that my board is in place, and then let's get drilling. The last one. It's exciting, this, isn't it? So let's move this out of the way, and that will reveal the holes that I have drilled. So for instance, we have got one there and one there. And also, one thing you do need to be a little bit careful of is when you're drilling through and you've got some of this insulation behind, the drill catches onto it and winds it up very quickly. So if you just watch, if you can see that, and that means that sometimes if you drill it for a while, it will literally pull that whole section towards the drill, and then you get this big void that you need to either refill or you'll just have a cold space, which you do not want. Anyway, now we can drill these out a little bit bigger. Another thing to note, actually, if you notice here, for neatness, everything normally is in a perfect line, like these ones along the top, but this is a different height to that one, which on the outside looks a little bit annoying, but in practical terms there's a reason for it, and that is because that is one hole which is on this sort of flat face there, but that flat face continues at that point, whereas it dips in there. So if I did it 100mm there, it'd probably be like 20mm set back, so that is why I've lifted it to that point. There you go. These are the rib nuts that I'm going to use, and they're a stainless steel rib nut because obviously in a van you don't want anything to rust. And the aluminium ones, they are a little soft and sometimes they don't really grab hold of the metalwork enough, so when you actually put your bolt in, it ends up turning the whole lot. So that is why I'm using the stainless steel ones. So now I have got a 9mm drill bit, which is exactly the same width as that, and that means this will fit into the wall. So where I've drilled with the little one, I need to now go over and drill with the bigger one. It all makes sense, it does. You ready then? Let's start some drilling. Again, just being careful not to grab hold of that insulation behind. Perfect. I'm just going to hoover up all the metal shards that have fallen off onto the floor because I do not want them to get trodden in. They will end up rusting. Also, there's a couple that have just attached themselves to the insulation, so I'm just going to clean up as much as I can before we crack on. I've got my riv nutter, my riv nut tool, which has got my M6 bit on it. So now I'm just going to attach a riv nut and then just crack on and get all these done. Dead simple to do. All you do is put it in the hole and crank it. So make sure it's nice and square, and then undo it just like that. There we are, one attached riv nut. And the good thing about this is the metal that you've exposed, which potentially would rust, it's almost like covered up and sealed with the actual riv nut itself, so solid work. Easy. Ace. So now I need to get these through these tiny holes, which obviously do not fit. These are M6 bolts which I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is swap out my 9mm bit, which was for the riv nuts, and I'm going to put in a 7mm bit, which just gives me 1mm play, 0.5mm either side on this. So I'm trusting that this is going to work nicely. Otherwise you have to make the hole a little bit bigger and then it can start getting a little bit messy. Just move this out of the way. And now I'm going to give it a blow through just to make sure that there is no dust or crap left on there which is going to get sealed in. I've already been to my mate's shop with the van and given it an absolute ridiculous clean out with his air compressor, blowing everything out of every single orifice in this van, and I know that it is immaculately clean behind all this, so I need to maintain that. Tell you what, this has been great for cleaning this van out. Anytime there's any dust at all, just give it a quick blast out. And if you've already got some of the Makita kit with the 18-volt batteries, this does not cost much at all, and I think it is awesome. Just a simple little blower, and it works on leaves and stuff outside as well, so awesome. Right, let's get some insulation. Here is some I prepared earlier. This is already cut to fit, and all the edges, for instance, that is the wheel arch section, and it is all taped everywhere, so it's fully complete, ready to go in. Yes. Which way around does it go now? Look at that. This is Major Tom to ground control. I'm stepping through the door. Definitely, this is my little spaceship. So I've done this in one continuous piece from this corner here all the way through to the far corner there, because the less joints you have, the better really. And initially it's a bit harder to wrestle to get it in place, but I've just pinned it up just so it is out of the way. I have cut it absolutely perfectly around the windows and the wheel arch as well, and that wheel arch is going to get some insulation on, so it's going to link to that. But this insulation, in the space required for it, is as good as you are going to get for a van. And the best thing about this is now that it's actually going to be covering up all of the metalwork, and the metalwork is what conducts the heat or cold into the van, and that is what I want to stop. I want to stop the cold bridging or the hot bridging, and just having this sort of thick layer over the whole lot is just going to be perfect for that. We're ready to fit her. The problem we've got though, which you probably already worked out, is that we need to get this bolt through the insulation into the riv nut, and obviously that is quite a solid barrier to get through. So I found that the best method of doing it is either getting quite a chunky nail and just giving it a tap through, or using something like this, which is just a screwdriver pretty much, and on the end there, that is sharp enough just to puncture through it. Ideally it'd be a spike, but this is a good tool because it stops in the actual riv nut there. It can't go any further. So if you said did have a hammer and nail and whacked it through, you might end up denting the outside skin of the van. So that is perfect because it just stops at that point. So if we keep it nice and tight, make sure that everything's looking all right, and I'm just going to give that a tap in. I think that's gone straight through, and we're going to take our bolt, and hopefully that'll just go straight through that hole and into my riv nut. We've got it, we're in. There we go, we're in. So that has got hold of that there. I just need to repeat that several times and hope that all of my riv nuts line up. We're in again. So I'm just going to sort of loosely fit them all first, and then I'll go around and tighten them all up afterwards. Something like that. And everyone, I'm just putting that little washer on as well. And I'm floating in the most peculiar way, and the stars look very different today. For here am I floating in a tin can, above the world. Planet Earth is blue, and there's nothing I can do. The advantage of using bolts means you've got quite a lot of adjustment on the actual positioning of the wall. So all I do is take a straight edge, pop it on the wall where my line is of my bolts, and I can see whether the wall needs to come in or out. And in this case, we have got a nice straight joint all the way along until we come to that end, and we've got about a 2mm shadow gap there. So I need to now take my Allen key and just tighten up this middle one, which will just help get rid of that. And it's so much better if you can start off with square, straight edges, that when you come to build your furniture, everything just sails in. And for me, I've always done that with all the building projects I've ever done, starting with the foundations into a concrete slab base. If everything's absolutely flat, then you're not messing about later on when you're tiling the floor or building your block work, because it just all goes in very quickly. And even say with like block work, I'll make sure that my door reveals are perfect, because then once you have that perfect square, when you come to fit your door frames, literally they just fall into place. They're all in apart from this annoying little bar stool, and that is because the van is completely straight up until this point, and then it actually just curves at the back. So behind there's a bit more of a void now because the ply is trying to keep straight and there's a curve behind it. So this isn't now long enough to reach the thread of the nut, so I'm gonna have to shove it in place. I've actually put my foot against it and it's not worked, so I'm now going to use this as a spreader bar. So I'll put a bit of protective carpet on there, and then if I show you as I wind that up, it should just push that in a little bit, enough for me to now put that in hole, and then hopefully get my Allen key and get it in place. Alan! 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 I found her. See if she'll just bite that now. There we go. I'm onto the thread straight away. Once that's got a bit of a grip, I can release that and get rid of it. And now I can adjust this to suit. I think we're not far off there. I need to get rid of my footprint that I've left on here though. So I can wind that in, and that's just going to help with that curve there. A couple of final adjustments. Yes! Boombastic, David Bowie, fantastic. Absolutely awesome that. We've got another half wall on. And I am absolutely loving this green colour. It is my favourite colour. My eyes are green, so that is why I have gone for this. And also, I do not want my van to be like anybody else's. I am trying to make it completely unique. And most of the vans out there, they just pain me just because they're like, I don't know, a dentist's surgery. They're all just grey and white and got this sort of like crisp looking, I mean it's nice in certain ways, but it's just not cosy, and I want this to be cosy. And obviously with this insulation, that is going to massively help. Anyway, I need to now cut another piece of insulation which is going to go from that point and link in just like I've done here, because the next board does actually go right to the ceiling. So let's get on with that. Bluey dog. Hello. Who is it, eh? I've bashed on and I am well happy with the results. This board is fit and this green colour is just lovely. And to make it stand out even more so, I need some contrasting colours and textures. So what I'm going to do is board this whole section out here, the reveal of the window, with some 20mm oak. This is actually pine, and that is going to sit tight there. And once I've got that fit fully boxed all the way around, I'm going to then put on an oak architrave, which will just have a nice warmth to it, just to as I say, make this stand out even more. Over here we have two boards which are cut to fit this section. The one there is temporarily fit, and then this one is obviously going to fit on top of that. In this corner I've added an extra couple of cables, and these are the last cables to go in, and these are for my Renogy 1, and this is the sort of controller system for my electrical system that is going down in this corner. Pretty much there. Obviously I just need a bit more painting to do on that, but I have got the insulation all the way down here, so now we are fully wrapped from floor at this side all the way up and over, not a gap. So that is going to be absolutely awesome for keeping me toasty warm in here. And I have also cut the two ceiling boards that are going to fit above my head here. These I have obviously shaped perfectly to fit around the these little awkward bits, which are pretty much in all vans, and they are a pain in the arse, but they are ready to fit. I have pre-painted them, so they've been painted with a acrylic primer which is in white, and once the primer's gone on, I have then let that dry, and I've now gone with this other colour which is more of like an acid green, which again contrasts really well with that sort of deeper dark green. So I'm looking forward to getting those in. So that is going to be the next task, and it's going to be an awkward one. I've got my leveling props, what do you call them, adjustable props there, which I can sort of tighten them up and obviously get the arch of the roof fit perfectly as well, because this is going to be a bit of an awkward one to do. But anyway, let's get them in and see how it all looks. This is not going to be easy on my own. I've got 4 cables to get through this and do that whilst holding it up, which is pretty much impossible, isn't it? Let's have a look. Yeah. Let's prop this side maybe first. Just let it sit on there. At least I've sort of got a hand free now. 1, 2, 3, and then the last one is right over here. There we go. I have it. I think. Quick, get a prop in the middle. There we go. So straight away you can see this lovely contrasting colour there, but the problem is we've got these to cover up, so I'm going to put some sort of strip along there, which I might actually turn into a bit of a lighting plinth. And on the end of the board I've also put a 50mm section of ply, which I've screwed through from this onto that, which is going to be my linking system, which will link this board to this one at that end, and then at this end I've done the same again. I've actually got a little bit of a link there, just so we can get a nice smooth sort of finish. And what I'll try to do is fill these holes, and if I get these holes filled and it looks alright, then great. If it doesn't look good, then I'll put an oak trim all the way over the lot. That's the plan. The first fixing is in, Boom. But there is one very important thing to mention, and that is the fact that I need to know where I can screw through the ceiling and into my little wooden pads. So what I've done is just glued in these sections here, so that is as minimal lining out as I needed to do. So obviously it keeps the weight down, and that has allowed me to now put a 9mm board on the ceiling rather than using like a 6mm, because obviously I've saved a bit of weight by not putting absolutely loads of timber in to frame it out. But now through all this, you just cannot, you can just sort of make out where the beam is, but to accurately screw into those little tiny blocks would be difficult. So I have made a little diagram here of my van, and this is the central line here, and then I know exactly from my distances where the 2 points are here to screw into, and obviously the lengths off the back. So hopefully I'll be very accurate and I can get it to look pretty neat, because the fixings I'm using are, if I just get one out, they're just like a black screw, those ones there, and it will look neat enough if I get them in perfect line, but I might end up drilling them in a little bit further and then just filling over the top and then just losing the heads. So we'll decide on that depending on how it turns out. That is the first board in, and I'm hoping my fixing system is gonna work. If there's any issues, I can always double up or triple up into that piece of wood that's above on each one, so I'm not too worried. The only worry I do have is this. That could be annoying, especially when this van's a rocking, but hopefully it isn't an issue. Board number 2. So again, I've got some cables to go through, which are going to be, as always, very awkward. One. No, come on. Come on. 2. And 3. Let's shove her up. Get one of these in. Oh. Now let's get some more fixings in. We are lined up pretty much perfectly, and I have pre-drilled and countersunk all these holes ready to put in some 16mm screws, so absolutely tiny ones, and that is just gonna bond these two together and then hopefully keep this nice arch all the way through it. Let's find out, eh? We have a ceiling. That went surprisingly very smoothly, and I'm absolutely loving this two-tone green. It's definitely turning it into that little nest that I want. And the edging joints that I put in, you can literally not even see that because it is absolutely perfectly in line. Again, I still might just put a bead over the top of that in oak, which will, actually I could paint one in, but just a little bead just to cover the sort of screw heads rather than filling and sanding all that off. But I'll make a decision on that at a later date. Awesome, eh? So next up, I have got to fit these, so they need pre-painting before I do it, and get those in situ. And then I'm going to be on to actually fitting furniture. I've got an absolutely amazing kitchen to go in here. That is going to look brilliant. And I've also got some more light fittings, which are very different, very unique, and they are ones that I've made myself. A little bit like this one. I just adapted this though, obviously, with that bracket, but I have got some bits of copper. So I've already attached that on there. I had to sort of tap that in just to, and screw it on to make it work. But that is gonna fit there, and I'm gonna have 3 of them. So that's gonna be an absolutely awesome one. Anyway, that is me insulating and boarding my van out. If you've liked the video, give it a big fat thumbs up. Not if you like it, just the fact that it takes a lot of effort to make these videos, and I'm currently getting about 35 to 40 pounds per video, so that's my weekly wage, 40 quid. So any contribution will be massively appreciated. So you can join the Patreon and you can buy me a coffee on the buy me a coffee link in the description. Anyway, from me and my absolutely beautiful van, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.